Good morning and happy Saturday, everyone. Gonna be in Corning for a little while today before I head back up to Cuke Lake. Although I will admit, I'm kind of hesitant on going to the lake. I know, shocking, right? Well, on the one hand, the weather really hasn't been that great for obvious reasons. And a lot of people will probably be deterred from going to the lake. Quite simply, let me fix my camera fast. There we go. A lot of people will probably be deterred from going to the lake quite simply because the weather's not going to be very good. On the one hand, listen, I actually don't go to the lake enough as it is. If it's a weekend where I'm not able to be there, it legit frustrates me. So, like it or not, I'm going. I mean, it shouldn't be that big of a problem. So I guess my low is the fact that I'm kind of struggling what I do with my weekend. I mean, even if I go up there for the night, I'll probably be back here, tomorrow, later in the morning, possibly early afternoon. I could totally see that happening. In fact, that's probably what will be happening. I don't know. So that's a thing going on. My high is the other day I actually heard some very interesting news that both fills me with hope, but just a little bit of concern. And I'll get to that in a minute. And my act of kindness was I ran some errands for my grandmother yesterday. So that was nice. Now let's get to the news that I heard. Now, at first I heard this was a rumor, but then I heard that it was confirmed to be all but true. And that's the fact that, first of all, I should probably tell you what I've heard. I should probably tell you, some things before I get into it. You guys know at this point, I am a One Piece fan. I've been a One Piece fan even back in the days when 4Kids was dubbing it. I will admit I never watch that stuff anymore. I've been reading the manga for well over 13 years. So it's pretty safe to say, while I'm obviously not a One Piece YouTuber like Grand Line Review or Ohara or Joy Girl, pretty much the entirety of the Blue Banana podcast. Shout out to the Blue Banana podcast. You guys are awesome. Or even Rogers Base for that matter. I really wouldn't call myself a One Piece YouTuber. I really am a casual fan compared to those guys. That doesn't mean I'm not allowed to say what my opinion on the internet is. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. We all know that. People have a right to have their own opinion. However, I'm the one in front of this camera, so that makes my opinion the right one. Okay, so apparently, Gear 5th is going to be animated by Warner Brothers. I'm sure to the untrained eye and ear, no one has any idea what I'm talking about. To any One Piece fans, you're either cringing right now or you are filled with excitement. To any Warner Brothers fans, you're probably asking, why Warner Brothers is even dealing with anime of all things? Let me explain. See, when chapter 1044 of One Piece came out in the manga, I'm pretty sure every great One Piece fan, obviously not including myself, but every One Piece fan was legit agreeing upon the fact that One Piece has now been changed forever. Gear 5th legit changed One Piece forever. It did. It changed the face of the series forever, and we can barely think of a time, where before Gear 5th was revealed, in which, holy cow, Gear 5th was technically there all along, we just couldn't see it. There you go. Seriously, a lot of fans have been rereading the manga for that very reason. Because, you see new information about something you're reading, so you have to go back upon old information and look it up, oh yeah, that is true, that is what happened, right? And that's exactly what happened here. Now, I talked about my opinion on Gear 5th, specifically in the very last ARC Thoughts I ever did, regarding whether or not Wano was, is, and will forever be known as the greatest manga arc of all time. Not just for One Piece, but for all manga in general. I can tell you Gear 5th was a very, very large reason why I think it will be. Now, regarding Gear 5th itself, and I mentioned this in that video too, Gear 5th has been the first... Oh, I learned this watching Totally Not Mark's video on Wano, but Totally Not Mark had a very, very, very great idea going when he said, when it comes to transformations or power-ups in anime or pretty much anything we ever read or watch, why I say watch so weird? Watch. Okay. Anything that we watch, usually more often than not, that transformation is something that's triggered from an emotional perspective. Easily the greatest and most iconic example, a lot of people are going to be referred to as from, Dragon Ball Z. Specifically when Frieza kills Krillin, it puts Goku over the edge, and that's what transformed him into Super Saiyan. And from that moment on, there have been plenty of instances, not just in anime, but even in Western animation, where whenever anything emotional happens, new powers are revealed. I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho did it. Hunter x Hunter did it. Naruto did it. Avatar The Last Airbender did it. Even if it wasn't a transformation per se, that emotion triggered a turning point in that critical moment, and then the good guy was allowed to save the day, more or less. However, Gear 5th was entirely different. Because when Luffy first uses Gear 5th and awakens, basically it's his Devil Fruit awakening. It's not out of anger. It's not out of sadness. The only real emotion I could even think of is elation, happiness. And I can see why some people would think that, but it was totally not Mark who brought up the idea that Gear 5th's abilities are pretty much limited to Luffy's imagination. If Luffy's able to think it, it's going to happen. He wants to grow giant muscles in rapid fashion. He does that. He's able to grow giant. He does that. He's able to grab lightning out of the sky. I mean, yeah, his body is already made of rubber, but just straight up grabbing lightning, he can do that. And no one had ever seen anything like that. Power that's only limited to one's imagination. And have it be used in a way that's not overpowered either. I mean, Luffy still struggled to defeat Kaido when he used Gear 5th. It's not like he beat him in, the next chapter. Oh, no. It was a good 5 or 6 chapters of fighting, give or take. I say give or take because, there's other panels and other things going on. Seriously, the raid on Nigashima was huge in a lot of ways. A lot of stuff was going on. So, yeah, it took quite a few chapters, even after Luffy awakened his devil fruit, for him to defeat Kaido. But he did it in a way that was just crazy imaginative. Like, no one had ever seen anything like that before. Now, I'm sure this is probably just a simple theory, but I would not be surprised if the good people over at Shueisha and Toei thought, you know what? That looks just like Warner Brothers style animation. I wonder. Well, want to know more, because apparently that's going to happen. Now, for those of you who don't know who Warner Brothers are, or is, first of all, turn in your fanboy or fangirl card. You cannot consider yourself a fanboy or fangirl without knowing what Warner Brothers is. Okay? Good. Warner Brothers, straight up, is one of the greatest animation companies on the face of the earth. In fact, they've been the only true rival to Disney. Granted, pretty much any and all the animators aren't really as famous or legendary as Walt Disney, but you have a few who could be considered a close second, like a Tex Avery or a Chuck Jones, someone along those lines. And Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic, did a really great comparison once where Disney is classical music, Warner Brothers is jazz. Like, both are approachable by all, but you find adults, or I guess even people of my generation, because my generation is a bunch of adults now, gravitating towards jazz quite simply because, you know, it's different, it's out there, it's in its own way, it brings you to like some sort of crazy emotional roller coaster ride of fun, mood. It just, you know, it makes you feel the feels. Classical music makes you feel feels as well, but it's not, but when you think of, you know, jazz, you think of something different, smooth, you know what I mean? And yeah, Warner Brothers is legitimately jazz. And any and all of the greatest, like, animation tropes, chances are you've seen them from Warner Brothers. Some of the greatest animated characters of all time, chances are you've seen them from Warner Brothers. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Yosemite Sam, Elmer Fudd, Sylvester the Cat, Tweety Bird, Roadrunner, Coyote, Foghorn Leghorn. The list goes on, Pepe Le Pew. The list goes on and on. And they all attributed to some of the greatest fanboy memories for a lot of people, myself included, just because their animation was just so fluid and smooth, and it worked. Like, the humor of those cartoons worked on so many levels. Like, if you're a little kid, you're gonna find what you see funny. But if you're an adult like me who's been watching stuff like that for years, like, you know that it is funny. You know why it's funny. You know the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. You know it all. And Warner Brothers has always been able to really do that. So the fact that Warner Brothers is going to be animating Year 5th, arguably One Piece's greatest moment in terms of changing how One Piece is forever, that just might make the most sense of anything. I'm not kidding. I really do feel as if Warner Brothers animating Year 5th just might be the most perfect choice for it. Now, there are a few concerns I do have. For one thing, a lot of One Piece fans are going to be yelling at, like, oh, the animation looks different. The animation looks, bad. Listen, Warner Brothers has worked on anime before. In fact, they actually worked on a One Piece film Red a while back. And also, have you seen the the last couple of episodes of One Piece, specifically Sanji versus Queen and Zoro versus King, like, that's like chef's kiss animation right there. And Toei has always been able to nail those iconic moments brilliantly. So there's no way they're gonna, like, literally, of every great One Piece moment I've ever seen that Toei got right, it's always involved either Luffy, like, seriously, Warner Brothers nailed Luffy defeating Lucci, they nailed Gear Forth, they nailed Snake Man. Any and all the greatest moments, Toei has nailed. So combine Toei's knowledge of how One Piece works with Warner Brothers style animation, it's quite possibly the perfect recipe for success. I very much have faith that we're going to be getting the greatest thing anime fans have ever seen from this moment. Now, again, it might only be just a rumor. I heard, like, in a short that Warner Brothers actually is going to do it. You know, Warner Brothers style animation for a character whose power is based or only limited upon imagination, it's a perfect fit. I really do think it's going to be a perfect fit. But only time will tell. I hope you liked this video. If you did, like this, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm very humbling this video for all you guys watching. Enjoy for name. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Saturday. And remember, if you guys want to talk to me, we'll be here to lend us right back. Take care. Make good choices. 607 all day, baby.